Welcome back! Today, I'll show you how I painted this Captain America statue. With the new movie coming out, I wanted to paint this awesome statue I found from Wicked. I'll put the link in the description below. I did things a little bit different this time. I've been waiting for these new Deep Cut Studio speed paint markers to come out so I can try them out. The markers come in a hardback carrying case, 20 markers, and 20 speed paint tips. With army painters, they don't usually come right out and tell you the exact color of the actual ink they're using, or markers for this example. So I went ahead and created a guide for myself and for you guys to see exactly what colors come in the box itself. I'll also put this in the link below. For most of my resin prints, I use G2 box to slice the items I'm using, so I went ahead and threw as many pieces of this print I could onto the bed. Once all the pieces were printed for this project, which took a few hours, I went ahead and primed everything in black. Once that's had time to dry, I went ahead and started the dry brushing phase. I used gray paint and go over the pieces one by one until everything has a gray coating on it. I then go through and add a top layer of white paint to all the pieces. It looks like this when it's all done. Now, let's try out these markers. If you like the content, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting on the video. It helps my channel grow. Now let's get back to the video. While the pieces were drying, I went ahead and started printing out the pieces for the base. I went ahead and glued all the pieces together. It's like, dang, this is coming together very nicely. I wouldn't recommend putting pieces together without some sort of support. You'll see why. To start off, I started using two of the main colors, the beige with blue and the bright red, for all the main spots of the Captain America statue. When completed using the markers, it should look something like this. Most of the time, I use my airbrush or my paintbrush to paint these statues. This time around, I wanted to show you guys the difference in using an airbrush and the markers that I'm using today. So I used the airbrush on one of the wings and the marker on the other wing. The airbrush clogged at one point and spit out a large amount of paint. You'll be able to see the excess of paint in the final piece. Overall, the airbrush allowed me to add more detail to the pieces, but the marker allowed me to be a little bit cleaner and to fit into smaller areas where I couldn't usually get into with my airbrush, and I had to use a small paintbrush. I use a hardened leather marker next for all the pouches. As I'm going through this, I'm realizing how much I really do like these markers. I would highly recommend these markers to anyone trying to get started in this profession or just wants to use a marker instead of a paintbrush. I used a few more markers to color in a few other pieces, then I started the gluing process. Everything was coming up nicely, so stay tuned for the final product. Again, I only use a deep cut speed paint markers for this entire print, minus that one wing where I used the airbrush just to show you guys the difference. Other than that, I printed the entire model using those markers. Again, I would highly recommend these markers for anyone trying to start off. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next one.